Here's a 1997 MXZ 440 Skidoo. What I call a boy racer. Nice little 440 fan engine, good suspension, relatively good shape. Quite a few kilometers on it. I think there's 12K on here. And I call it an MXZ because I think a snowmobile that's made in Canada shouldn't be pronounced MXZ, should be pronounced MXZ. Anyway, there's room for debate there. Now this snowmobile came to us about 2 weeks ago. Big dilemma, one cylinder quit working, and the customer was quite sure it was a piston problem, and he was quite right. There's the mag piston. It's sort of weird. It is sure hammered up. It had an L ring here, which doesn't leave a lot of meat to retain that ring, and sort of think the ring broke and pieces of it started dancing around in there. There's even a piece embedded in there. So anyway, we cleaned up the head in the lathe, put two new SPX super duper pistons in it and a gasket kit. The cylinder bore was fine, and that's where we sit. But the poor old MXZ is not cooperating. It starts and runs, but it will not idle on the mag cylinder. As soon as you rev it up a little bit, it picks up and it'll pull power, but as soon as you let it idle down, it cuts back onto the PTO. We've cleaned these carbs, we've synced these carbs, the exhaust is free, we've got new plugs, we've got excellent compression, and what I'm finding is if I squirt from my primer bottle a little mist of gas into there at idle, the cylinder picks up really nice and then dies off as soon as the fuel's burned off. So what we're going to do is swap carbs to make sure I'm not missing something in that carburetor. See if the trouble moves to the other side. If it doesn't, then I'm getting fairly nervous about internal bottom end engine problems, in particular the seal on the mag side of the crank in behind the stator is maybe torn and causing that cylinder to be a little bit too lean at idle. And that may be what caused this issue in the first place. I don't know. It doesn't look like it was hot. So anyway, that's what we'll do. We'll swap these carbs and give it a few pulls and see what can happen. It appears as though the carb flange on one of these carbs has been changed because they've got different clamps on them. Now the flanges look good when I had the engine apart. I'm kind of hopeful we can just swap these carbs. There seems to be lots of slack on the cables, but we're going to get twisted beyond belief here. Yeah, not a good idea, Al. We'll do it right. The carbs are jetted the same, so maybe you don't have to put them back. The reason there's an extra fuel filter here is that this line was split, and in their wisdom, Bombardier decided to mount the fuel pump under the engine. It's very difficult to service when it's down there, so instead of pulling the engine to put on a new piece of fuel line, I just spliced it with an extra filter. I hope that's not contributing to our problem. I would say it isn't. This sled was in trouble before we did that. So now we'll stink up the garage. It's got a good battery. So as you saw, the engine wouldn't idle properly on both cylinders until I put a little squirt of gas in the mag carb. Now I've swapped carbs, so I know it's not the carburetor. The top end of this engine's been redone. I have excellent compression. The carb flange looked good when I had it off, so it's not like there's a big leak there. So I am almost getting certain that there is an internal engine air leak on this puppy. And what we'll do is we'll pull the carbs, pull the shrouding off, pull the starter off, pull the exhaust off, plug the exhaust ports, plug the carbs, and do a pressure check. This engine should hold 5 to 7 pounds indefinitely for that matter, but we can usually tell pretty quick if we got a bad seal by doing that. So stay tuned. Might as well gather up all the exhaust springs now, if they'll come out. That one won't. They generally get lost. Unfortunately, I found it near impossible to get at the top exhaust or the exhaust bolts down in here past the starter. But we'll give it another try. They are you do require a 6mm hex, or I like to say Allen head screw. But when I did the top end, I did take the starter right off. Let's see if we can get a little smarter. The reason we take the exhaust off to do the pressure check is we have to plug the exhaust ports off with some rubber stoppers or some way of keeping the air from leaking out. So if you plug the carbs, plug the exhaust, leave the spark plugs in, and I just use the port, the vacuum port where the fuel pump works off of to feed my air pressure in. Therefore we could do the check. Which reminds me, we will disconnect the negative battery cable just to save a few arcs and sparks. And I'm going to take the starter off. I'm not that confident I can get in and get those bolts on the exhaust manifold. I used to have a 13mm wrench. Here it is. Thankfully, this starter comes off without removing the clutch. Although, if push comes to shove, I'm sure this clutch will be coming off. TRA, total range adjustable Bombardier clutch. Pretty good clutch. What I like about them is that they're rebuildable without special tools. You don't have to bust a spider loose like you do with Cat and Polaris Comet, those types of things. A matter of disconnecting the hot lead from the battery, which is hot all the time on these, because the starter solenoid is mounted on the starter. Then there's the wire that comes from the ignition switch, which supplies 12 volts to the solenoid, which starts and engages the starter. So there's a little Phillips headed screw there that we don't like to lose. One step closer. Luckily the exhaust gaskets have stuck. No, they haven't. One didn't. Stuck on the shroud. Years ago I bought a engine pressure testing kit at an auction sale. What it consists of, zoom back a little I hope, is a hand pump with a gauge. There's a Schrader valve in there. Part of this is from a compression test kit, and it came with an assortment of rubber plugs and deals to plug off your exhaust. So we'll put that together. The kit also came with some drilled aluminum plates that looks like to be drilled for every different pattern you'd ever want. We'll see if these match up. This is the kind of thing that makes a repair job very expensive. Unfortunately, this stuff is so time consuming. If we're lucky, our little rubber circle will fit in there. And sometimes there's a little bit of trial and error getting that to seal. This is probably going to be one of those times. Oh, here we go. Okay, I hope. Part of the process is making sure your test apparatus works. So we'll see if that seals the exhaust. Probably the neatest part of the kit is these bungs, for a better, lack of a better term. Somebody turned these out of hard nylon, and there's 4 different steps with grooves in each step so that they I haven't been beat on a carburetor flange yet. I suppose if I ran into a big 670 or something like that, it might be different, but generally they pop right in. Tighten the factory clamp. In theory, that should be airtight. Airtight, just like my alibi last Friday night. Okay, now to find the port for the pulse, vacuum pulse, which runs the fuel pump. Which is in a reasonably good spot to get at, thankfully. There we have it. Now it's simple a matter of applying the pressure pump, hand pump. I don't know if the gauge is going to show up. Probably won't be able to put that gauge where the camera can get at it. So it's not holding any pressure, but I don't know where it's leaking either. You want to be careful that your exhaust plugs and all those things are holding. This is when it's got to be really quiet in the shop, because you can hear it. Well, as I tugged and poked and prodded to see where this air leak was, I tore the mag carb flange right apart. Now, I think that's our problem, and I probably should have picked this up before in the repair process, but we will see if we got it I think we have a flange like this in stock, and hopefully that'll fix it. We didn't have the exact carb flange in stock. I've got a couple that they're more of an angle. They're probably off a Citation or something. Possibly the engine was laid down more on those. So this won't be the end-all fix, I don't think. But we bolted that on, and as you can see on the gauge now, without the glare, sorry about that. We're holding steady at 4 pounds. A dramatic difference in how tight that engine is. We like seeing that. So at this point I'm quite confident that that's an air leak fix. I'm hoping it'll fix our problem. So what we'll do after we have a bite to eat is I'll put both those carb flanges on, the ones I have, and see if they'll work with the air box. They possibly will work. And put all the exhaust and the starter and the shrouds all back on, and see how the engine runs. And if the engine runs good, and if those flanges will mate up with the air box, possibly we'll be done with this job. Otherwise, I think we'll order 2 new carb flanges. This other one here is poor, and hopefully Rec Supply in Saskatoon will fix us up, and we'll because we have 6 or 8 inches of new snow on March 15th, we'll get this young boy racer back on the snow. So we put everything back together: starter, Y-pipe, exhaust pipe, cooling shrouds. I've got 2 new old stock carb flanges, but I think they have the wrong angle. They're tipped down too far. So that may or may not work in the long term, but let's give it a crank here. Actually, I had it running, and we're quite a bit happier with what's going on here. So I guess the cracked carb flange was the problem. Should have picked that up earlier, but there you go. DSA. DSA. I wonder if that means D same as Polaris. Yeah, I think so.